Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an exciting episode of Fanzone Debate. We got a fun matchup for you today. We got Rue Moses going up against Kaleb Koho. I'm looking forward to this one. These people have played before. We just found out years ago. It was years ago, and now the matchup is finally happening. I know in my heart of hearts that Kaleb has been just waiting for the moment that he can get back to Rue and avenge his loss last time. I've been waiting for this. But anyway, all jokes aside, very excited. I think these two players are two of the best that we have in the league. Both have challenged for the belt before. Both have made it to contender matches multiple times. So very, very good players here. Just never won that taste of gold. Well, now they're in a picture. Well, kind of. They're playing tonight, and then whoever wins is in a picture next year. So it's kind of like a picture. But anyway, Brian, you are here. Welcome. You might be the champ. I don't know. Brian, how are you?
I'm totally the champ because it's absolutely November right now. I mean, what about the crazy election, man? That was crazy.
Yeah.
I can't believe won the election.
That's funny. Brian, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Once in a while, I can still judge one of these when it doesn't have a direct effect on my future opponent. So I actually get to come and judge another one of these. That's good against two guys who I've seen both of them debate before. They're both excellent at it, and this is gonna be a ton of fun.
And Kirk is also here. Kirk, how are you doing, my friend? And what do you think of this matchup?
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here too. Unfortunately, my availability to judge recently has not been that great, so I haven't been here that much. And it's nice to be here for a match that you're going to get like two top tier players giving their best. Rue and Koho are two of those guys that are like right there. Could go on a run at any time, challenge for a title anytime. So it's exciting to think that whoever wins tonight could very well be the start of something big for either one of them. So I'm excited to see it happen. And I'm not even thinking about the fact that last time Koho judged a match for me, he voted against me 5-0. Furthest thing from my mind right now.
I was about to bring it up, but if you say you're not thinking about it,
not at all.
That's fair. Good on you, Kirk, for leaving that aside. Let's bring in the
Why
lower
does this board already say Rue on it?
Kaleb Koho, welcome. Koho, does Kirk being here scare you?
It always scares me. Kirk, even if I didn't go 0-5 on Kirk, I feel like Kirk likes the way I fight. I feel like having Kirk here is just definitively that's a point I've lost every round. No, but it counter evens because Brian gives me the points like all the time, so it works. So there you go. But no, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to play Rue because I feel like the last time I played Rue, I feel like I left game on the table. I could have done a little better. So getting another shot at it is great because Rue's great. It's a real test for myself to be like, how do I stack up against people that I think are really, 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 really good here? Really, the Minnesota coming out. But I have a new coach. I have a new strategy. I'm going to try things different. We'll see if it works. Because, damn it, I want a fucking fan zone belt, guys. I want it. So,
as long as your coach isn't Mike Hanley, is it?
Okay. Koho, one more question for you. Did you model yourself and your facial looks after this man?
This man is a fraud. He stole everything from me.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, let's bring in Mr. Moses. Rue, welcome back. We last saw you. We've talked a lot about the past with you and Koho. But we did see you earlier this season against Joe Fairley. Very close match, very good match. But now you are back to hopefully get a win on your record. You're going against Koho, who has been known to, what's the word I'm looking for? Spew. What are your thoughts?
I am excited to face Koho again. It's been a minute, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm of two minds. One, in all of like multiplex period, I'm trying to have a lot more fun and a lot less stress. So like I'm competitive, but I'm not like in like to the point where I'm stressing myself. I want to win everything I do. However, when it comes to fan zone debate, I'm one of the best players, yet everything for me is 50%. I am sick of the close matches. I am sick of the speed rounds. I am sick of saying, oh, it was so great for the eject. I'm sick of all that shit. I want to win. Point blank, period. I want to fucking win. So I'm hoping I get this one today. I hope it's not a fucking speed round because, damn it, I don't remember the last time I wasn't it. But we'll see what happens. Koho is a great competitor, and he's always ready to throw shit at you that you're not expecting. So we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at the stats, the Rue's stats are wild because you have 12 clean sweeps, but 28 points total, which that's pretty intense. But your votes are like you said, yes, split pretty much down the middle, 85-165. So very, very interesting in the way that your stats work out. But Rue, I'm excited. I like the moxie. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see if we go to that speed round or not. So this is how it's going to work tonight. The players drafted categories. We then gave them questions based on the categories. They're going to have to debate those questions tonight before our very souls. They are each going to get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing at the end of the debate. Brian, Kirk, and I will write on our handy-dandy boards who we thought won the debate. 2 out of 3 votes wins you a point. First person to 3 points wins the match. Any questions from the players?
Koho, any chance I can get you to take that hat off so we can match more?
See, if we matched, you would just see like a lot of 5 o'clock shadow hair. It's not quite right. So,
I understand.
It's rough.
Let's do it. All right, we are going to kick this one off with the first category, which was drafted by Rue in the category of Marvel/MCU. Your question is, which Marvel or MCU film has the best villain? Rue, you drafted this. You get to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking. I will come in to give you a 10-second warning when the time comes.
As seen recently in X-Men 97, Marvel has a whole lot of villains that can fill in the blanks of the phrase blank was right. But the only Marvel film or MCU film that has the perfect villain for that is Black Panther because it was Killmonger. Killmonger was right. Not only is he ruthless, dangerous, badass, and villainous, trained to kill not only his enemies, but other antagonists from his girlfriend to Claw. The reason he was right and we connect him so much is because you have empathy for him from the first frame to the last. There's a reason why we open on the story in Oakland. We see his story and where he finds his father with panther claws in his chest. We see the profound trip to the ancestral plains and understand his revenge. We see that he's trained as a JSOC soldier. He gets the nickname Killmonger with all those scars by racking up legitimate kills in the eyes of his country. And in every aspect, he won. He won without powers against T'Challa kicking his ass. And if not for a snow-packed sized plot armor, he still would be the king. He won over the audience with Cool as Hell's lines. He won over his people in Wakanda, and he even won over T'Challa.
Time. Okay. We will move over to Mr. Koho. Kaleb, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
I think the obvious answer to this question is also the correct answer, and that's Thanos in Avengers Infinity War. He's the only villain that has a movie directly about him. Infinity War, he is the protagonist, whether you want to admit it or not. That movie is about his mission, his arc, and his journey to clear half of life out of the universe in an effort to save it. And along the way, he beats all of the Avengers, one-on-ones Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and Hulk, and beats each of them individually. And in the case of Hulk and Thor, without the Infinity Stones or the Gauntlet. So he's shown in a physical sense to be the best villain, as the strongest villain. But he's also one that throughout the film, you are watching his thought patterns, why he wants to do this. His relationship with Gamora and helping her as a child while extinguishing half of the life on her world, and how you sympathize for him when he has to end Gamora and get rid of her out of the picture and sacrifice her. So all the way through, this movie's about Thanos, and you kind of are rooting for him to win all the way through from beginning to end, and that's crazy.
Time. Okay, 2 excellent picks. Gentlemen, You have 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking. I will throw up the 1-minute warning when the time comes, and I will come in for the 10-second warning again. If you are talking over each other or, not letting your opponent talk, I'll throw up the let your opponent talk. Don't make me do that, okay? I don't want to do it, but I will. And if I have to, I will send Nick Twohig to your house. Don't make me do it. He's not as nice as he seems. So 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
The entirety of the
Thanos is a very nice villain, and your whole thing about him being a protagonist is horrible because he has absolutely no depth at all. All you see is what's front facing you in Infinity War because you look into his backstory, and what is he? He is a spurned politician who didn't get his way, wasn't intelligent enough to figure out a better way to save his planet, and then when everything goes wrong, he says, "Hey, look, I was right. Now I'm gonna go do this genocidal shit." You have no empathy for him, and you have no sympathy for him when he takes Gamora because he stole a child while killing the family in front of her. So all this protagonist talk, he's a protagonist without depth and a villain which Killmonger matches in every single way.
You literally just said he has no depth and then explained why in every scene of the movie you have more insight into his character than you do Killmonger, who you're like, oh, he saw him be JSOC. No, you were told he was a JSOC person. You were told he has a lot of kills and then shown he has makeup scars on his arms. He is not actually as depthful as you think he is because you saw him once as a child and then once as Michael B. Jordan. And so Killmonger as a villain tries to do everything Thanos does. Thanos does everything that you're talking about, where he's like, oh, he wins and everything on the biggest scale imaginable because he clears out half of life in the universe. And yes, he is sympathetic because when he's sitting there crying for a moment over the death of Gamora and having to get rid of her, you're like, wow, this guy will go to lengths. And when you're like, oh, he's just a spurned politician. No, you literally see him in his explanation to Stark explain why that is the only way forward. And when they didn't listen to him, they died, and why he was actually right. Thanos has proven through the movie that he is right. And then even going into Phase 4 movies, the phrase Thanos was right is said in like 4 of the movies and is a plot point across all of Phase 4.
So, we also see that explanation of Killmonger being right, not only convincing T'Challa that he won, not only convincing the Border Tribe and the Dora Milaje that he legitimately, without powers, beat the shit out of T'Challa and proved that those scars were actually legitimate. He proved it with Shuri and Wakanda Forever because she also believed the person who basically almost ended his brother believed he was right. You talk about death. How many different movies do we see politicians just saying, oh, you should do this, but it didn't work? There's no depth to that. What makes you empathize with that? What makes you empathize with somebody who just didn't get their way and couldn't figure out a better way to do it? You talk about Thanos actually winning, but who he won at his own villainous stuff. There is no other villain, including Thanos, that actually convinced his own enemy to have T'Challa say that the ancestors are wrong, to have T'Challa go back to Oakland to start his means because everybody knows Killmonger was right, including his own enemy.
Except you literally just explained why Thanos is Killmonger, but better. You literally just explained it because you're like, oh, politician didn't get the way. Killmonger is just a guy who didn't get his way. He doesn't have the same level of anything. He literally just goes, oh, I kill people, show up, I beat Killmonger, or I beat Black Panther without his powers. Then when Black Panther got his powers back, kicked my ass and got me killed. Yeah, it's a whoa, 1 for 1. You take away Black Panther's powers.
I'm sorry, you watch your birthright be taken from you when your own uncle killed your own father, and then they leave you, and you look at that child and you say you don't empathize with that child. You don't empathize with that person doing everything in their power to become strong, to become skilled, and do anything, including killing the girlfriend and the antagonist that got you your way to get what you need, and convince everybody who you are going against to go with you because you did it legitimately. I'm never empathizing with a politician. I'm never empathizing with somebody that just literally didn't get his way and couldn't find a better way to figure it out and then go for evil.
We keep saying Thanos is a politician. He's a scientist, actually, fun fact. But he also, throughout that movie, it's not just, oh, I didn't get my way. It's that I figured out this is what we have to do, and I'm the only one with the vision to actually go through and do it. And when they don't do it, they die. So he takes upon himself, after being proven right as a scientist with this hypothesis, that's what needs to happen, and succeeds, goes out and does it, beats the people more powerful than Black Panther, and Black Panther himself with his powers, actually. So if you want to go 1 for 1 on powers, Thanos beat your guy with powers, which your guy couldn't do, and took down the entire universe to the point where even after he wins, and even after they have to go to great lengths to reverse it, the world after they reverse it goes, was Thanos right? That's literally the whole theme of Phase 4.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, but is that the audience saying Thanos was right because people in general are stupid? That's what that is. That's not characters saying Thanos is right. Everybody hates his ass.
Saying Thanos was right.
Everybody hates his ass.
In Endgame and in Shang-Chi and in Black Widow, there's graffiti on the wall that says Thanos was right. It's a point.
Right, people. Yay. Clearly, yay.
Strike it from the record. Strike yay from the record. Koho, we'll go to you first. You have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
Rue's trying to tell you that the best villain is because you sympathize with Killmonger, that he convinces people he's right. But at the end of the day, Wakanda Forever doesn't even go forward into that, except Shuri seeing him and then panicking because she thinks he's a bad guy. So no, Killmonger did not win, because at the end of the day, Black Panther died, and the movie does not continue that forward going into his movie. Thanos, across the MCU going forward, is contemplated about whether or not he's right. The best villain is the one that succeeds. Thanos succeeds. He beats all the best heroes, the strongest heroes across the entire MCU on his own, sometimes with the stones, and most of the time without, including Hulk and Thor. And at the end of the day, he wins. And you watch him win, and you kind of agree with him at points, because his whole perspective of, if we get rid of half the life of the universe, it's better, is right in those movies. In that movie, he succeeds. He is shown to be right on his home planet that is dead. And when it comes to Killmonger, he can't beat the hero in the end. Thanos does. That's the whole end of sentence. He's the only one that you follow. He's the only one you watch win, and he's the only one that continues to win.
All right. We're going to move over to Rue. Rue, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
We have random people spray painting Thanos was right and believing him, except the heroes who had to time travel to reverse the absolute wrong he did, because they all think that he is absolutely crazy after being a politician and scientist who couldn't get his way and wasn't a smart enough scientist to figure out another way. Yeah, Thanos was right when everybody wanted to reverse it, whereas in Killmonger, who Shuri showed also believed him in Wakanda Forever, is not only ruthless, as dangerous, as skillful, as cool with all of his lines, and won people over. He actually won. He actually convinced people during the movie and after the movie, including T'Challa, to say, you know what? The memes that Killmonger went through may not have been right, but his ends of actually opening up Wakanda to the world, opening up things and making sure that what Killmonger believed goes through, he convinced T'Challa to do that. After killing everybody, after beating his ass, after being ruthless, after being cool as
time. Oh, man, guys. Well, if this is what we have to look forward to this evening, this is gonna be a long night, boys.
Mm-hmm.
That was good, guys. Good shit. These are the types of fights that make me want to come back, and not in the way where like Cody is like, oh, I want to beat the shit out of Jack Pinchuk, but in like the way where it's like, ooh, that was good. I wish I could have been a part of it. Damn. All right, I'm ready. What about you guys?
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. As I said, excellent. Sorry, I took a moment and then I just heard Maggie look at my dog in the eyes and say, "You stink." Very, very good. I think that arguably two of the best villains you could have picked. There's lots to choose from in the world of not just the MCU, but also Marvel. And I think that these are in the top 5 for sure. And I think both did really fantastic jobs of talking about why their villains are the best in the terms of both like the cool things they do, which make us like them as characters, but also what they do in the film that makes them villainous and the best villain. So this was tough. This was really, really, really hard. I went with Kaleb because ultimately I felt like Kaleb in his closing, I thought his closing was just a hair bit stronger when he talked about Thanos succeeding in the sense of he does beat every single villain. And I thought the comparison of beating Black Panther, T'Challa specifically, Black Panther, who then beat Rue's guy, it's a small point, but it's a good point. And it was like I was like trying to think of things that they said to like that gave the one up. And I thought that point and Koho's point of just in general, he wins at the end of the movie, and that kind of makes him the best. I agree with Rue, because when Rue said like Killmonger convinces like everybody, I was like, that's putting it strongly. But then when he continued to explain like the Dora Milaje and the border tribe and everything, and like pointed out, and once he like spelled it out, it made a lot more sense to me, especially the T'Challa saying to the elders like you were all wrong and everything. I agree with all that. I thought that was really, really great. But at the end of the day, Black Panther still takes him out. And if we're looking at both sides of best, I think Koho painted it just slightly better. This was fucking tough, guys. Like I don't know. Brian, am I just crazy? Was this close or was this not close?
Well, you could be crazy either way.
Okay, thank you.
I thought this is a really good heated debate, but I think that 95% of the debate was spent debating a different question. There was a whole lot about who was more right and who was more justified and who changed people's minds, and not so much about who was the best villain. I mean, now part of that does go into like the depth of the character, things like that. But so for me, I was looking for anything more like why they made the best villain, not why they were, the more right or whatever. So for me, I ended up going Kaleb as well. Basically based on the fact that, we talked about kind of the stakes and the scale of his plan and how he defeated all the superheroes. And even after he was done, how there were repercussions, even after he was, done and gone. And how he basically, after he basically succeeded with his plan. I think the Rue made a great case for Killmonger as well. It's just in terms of trying to grasp something more for the question, because I think the who was more right or changed minds things kind of cancel each other out for me. So I had to grab onto something.
Okay, Kirk, your vote. Where would you have gone and why?
I'm so glad I don't have to decide. Listen, when the upside to having two debaters like this to judge for is you get to hear a really good debate. The downside is sometimes you have to vote against somebody who fought hard enough and well enough to win. And I think they both did that. I think it was a really close fight. I did end up going with Rue though, because I agree with Brian that the fight did become about who was the most right. And I think that's the tone that Koho allowed Rue to set, and he stuck with that. And if I think, again, you were talking for about 10 seconds, Tim, before, and I was almost like, hold on a second, I almost changed it because I think Koho did a great job. But I think in the parameters that were set through the match, especially in his closing, I think Rue did a really good job of saying, they were saying who was right, but what I was hearing was who had the most impact. And when Rue at the end especially was focused on how he changed this villain changed his hero's mind and made him behave differently, that's what kind of tipped it over the edge for me. But again, they both fought that great.
All right. Great first fight. Let's get into the second one. It was drafted by Mr. Koho in the category of Oscars. The question is, which 21st century film non-fandom that was nominated for Best Picture that didn't win should have won? So, Koho, you are starting this off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
I think in a fight like this, it's not just about considering the movie versus the winner. It's the movie versus the class. I think it depends what other movies are in contention that year as well as what won. And I think there's a clear winner in that in Black Klansman should have beat Green Book. Not just because Black Klansman is a better film than Green Book, because it deals with the same thematic elements as Green Book and does it significantly better with more depth and more humanity. It also beats every other class's film in that year. It beats The Favorite. It beats A Star Is Born, which is kind of fluff popcorn, just like Bohemian Rhapsody, down the board, through and through. The movies that we think about and talk about from that year, we don't talk about Roma anymore. We don't talk about The Favorite unless you're talking about Poor Things. When you talk about what movie made an impact that was the best in its year, through and through, we still talk about BlacKkKlansman in the same breath as Green Book, of him being like, I can't believe Spike Lee lost that. It might be Spike's best movie, and yet he lost to Green Book, a film that really does not hold a candle to BlacKkKlansman when it's playing in the exact same arena. And even as a film, it's done better by Spike.
Time. All right, let's move over to Mr. Moses. Rue, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
The King's Speech is a fine movie with fine acting and a fine plot, but that's all it is. It's just fine. In a year with an absolutely stacked Best Picture lineup that includes Toy Story 3, True Grit, Black Swan, The Fighter, and my favorite of all time, Inception, it's an absolute travesty that it beat out all those impactful films when there's not one impactful and memorable thing about it. But more egregious than that even with my favorite film ever in that lineup, standing tall amongst all those giants is The Social Network, the absolutely only pick here. See, King's Speech doesn't stick in anyone's mind, while Social Network will forever be in the cinematic zeitgeist, being the perfect blend of Fincher's dark and realistic directorial choices, Meredith Sorkin's perfectly wit, smart, and fast-talking dialogue for Silicon Valley douchebag characters, perfectly casted by actors who perfectly fit all levels of those aggravating yet all-consuming personalities, set to the perfect musical backdrop of Ross and Reznor. While every other movie in this lineup could have beat King's Speech and win every other year, they only have aspects that are great for them. Social Network has the best directing, best acting, best writing, best score, best editing, and best everything, yet it couldn't beat a movie that you can't remember.
I've got to say, I don't normally say this. I love that you two are fighting against these movies. That's hilarious to me. These are great movies. I'm super looking forward to how you guys are going to fight this. Good luck. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
So you kind of said it in your argument that anything in that year could have beat King's Speech and would have been a better win. So that to me says Social Network doesn't even need to necessarily be your pick. Your argument is anything but King's Speech, which feels like a weird case to fight considering King's Speech is a good movie that arguably has the best supporting actor winner of that year in it with Jeffrey Rush. But I think that when you break down King's Speech, it's a good movie and it still stands strong amongst that class. It's just like you just said, anything could have beaten it. So you're arguing really Toy Story 3, Inception, True Grit. Those movies could also beat it. You're not specifically arguing why Social Network is the best movie of the bunch. And honestly, it might not be because Inception might be a better movie.
So you could read it that way, but my argument is actually the fact that a movie that is better than all of those absolutely outstanding movies because it is perfect in every single way and should have been the clear front runner amongst such a stacked cast is way more deserving and way more of a snub than winning than a movie in BlacKkKlansman who went up against, you said it, a horrible class, but is talked about just as much as The Favorite. And you mentioned it. The only thing standing in BlacKkKlansman's way is the fact that it's there with The Favorite, which is talked about just as much, which is acted just as great, probably a little bit better, is written just as well. It's absolutely hilarious and doesn't have the pacing problems that BlacKkKlansman has whenever we go to his relationship with Laura Harrier and anything with Kwame Tore's character and all of that going in there. That is the thing. If you have a movie that is like, maybe it should have won in a horrible class compared to Social Network, that is the front runner in absolutely stacked year, and none of those stacked won, and King's Speech did, I feel like mine is the better picture.
I think you just made my case for me. It's more of an egregious loss that BlacKkKlansman won because it lost to a worse movie than yours. Like, if we're going to sit here and compare the worst Best Picture winner, like if it were the fight, Green Book is far and away the winner. I would win that fight. But that's the thing. BlacKkKlansman is a better movie than everything in that class. What you're making the case for me again is that then why didn't BlacKkKlansman win? Because it is far and away the best movie of the bunch. And that's a more egregious loss to me than Social Network, which comes into a group, like you said, super stacked and loses to a good movie. Let's just be clear. King's Speech might not be your favorite movie in that bunch, but it is a very well-made, great acted, well-made movie across the board that is not a bad Best Picture winner and not a bad movie to lose to. Whereas Green Book is an egregious movie for BlacKkKlansman to lose to because it's, in Spike's own words, like losing to Driving Miss Daisy for a second time, and that hurts him at his core as a person. And that movie is a better movie.
You said it at the beginning. It's not necessarily about only who it lost to, it's who it's up against. And first and foremost, we're in a very close circle in movies. There's a lot of people who absolutely love Green Book. I'm not going to argue that Green Book wasn't a bad choice. I'm sticking to my point that if you have to, in a year where Black Klansman should be the clear front runner and should win, still say, hey, wait a second, the favorite's over there. The favorite is actually probably just as good of a pick as Black Klansman, if not better, where you going over here and said, oh my God, look at this and look at this and look at this. And all of a sudden you say, wait a second. Inception only has great action. Toy Story is kind of a little kiddish, only a little bit. Black Swan has Natalie Portman. You can only pick things in each of those movies that are perfect, whereas Social Network is literally the perfect movie. There's nothing about Social Network that is bad, and it should have won amongst giants. That makes it shows that it is even more egregious because when the perfect movie goes against loses to a movie in King's Speech, you might call it good, but what do you remember about it? Who talks about it? Ever? Nobody. No people talk about Green Book. People talk about Mahershala Ali. I don't remember anybody talking about Jeffrey Rush or whatever his name is at the beginning, past after the movie came out.
The only reason we talk about Green Book is because it beat Black Klansman. We talk about it in the case that it is the worst best winner of the best of the worst Best Picture winner of the decade, and beat Black Klansman. That's the only reason we talk about that movie. So you're making my point for me again in that case. But again,
Mahershala,
who's good in a bad movie? He's doing well in a Lifetime
you
movie.
Have a good part of it that you remember.
Movie you don't like. There, negated argument. What I'm arguing with you here that's confusing me is that you're like, oh, because the favorite is going head to head with it, and you like the favorite more. That's the argument. Is that maybe it should have lost to the favorite. But that's your case is that times 10, where it's Inception, Black Swan, True Grit, Winter's Bone, all these great movies that you just said. Oh, Social Network lost in a year of these. Any of these could have won. That's what's confusing me. You're like, oh, it's the best.
You're not confusing the winner of that year. The winner of that year, Social Network, hands above, because of all the things I've already listed that it is the best at, including 3 wins in editing, score, and screenplay. Writing, directing, acting for the characters that they're in, and all those things are best. Inception doesn't stand up to it as an Oscar. Black Swan doesn't stand up as Best Picture. None of these stand close to that. The favorite is not one I like better. The favorite is a better movie. It's a better movie.
In different screenplay categories, you're arguing apples to oranges in a lot of your points here. But anyway, the point that we're making is you're like, oh, Social Network's better than King's Speech, but it's also just as good as any other movie to pick in this year. And your only argument against Black Klansman with Green Book is that favorite might be better, but you're not arguing again why Black Klansman is not better than Green Book either, because Black Klansman, again, across the board, your only issue is pacing issues, which anyone can point to as a buzzword. But when it comes to Black Klansman, that movie is literally an editing nominee and probably should have won and only lost because of fucking the whole mess up with Bohemian Rhapsody. Black Klansman's a better movie across the board.
Time. Oh my God. Okay. Rue, we're closing with you first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
There is absolutely no question that the Social Network is better than King's Speech and that Black Klansman is better than Green Book. So we go back to Koho's argument that who did it go up against? And if you're telling me that a movie whose pacing is not that great, John David Washington is really not that great of an actor, and is carried by Spike Lee really only, you might say, you know what? I don't think it should have won because The Favorite, which has 3 acting nominees and a win, amazing writing, amazing directing, amazing set production, amazing almost everything better than Black Klansman in that shitty year, it shouldn't be the pick. The one that should be the pick is when you have top tier movies that do one thing really well each and maybe 2, and you're like, wait a second, I love all those movies, but they don't stand anywhere near the absolute best movie, not only of that year, but maybe the damn decade and the century in The Social Network. Social Network is head and shoulders above an entire giant stack cast because it is the best at everything, and that's why it should have won more than Black Klansman.
Okay, let's go over to Koho. You have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
Black Klansman won adapted screenplay. The Black Klansman across the board was a frontrunner in a lot of categories because it is a beloved, great movie that explores the entire racial politics scene of 2018 in a nutshell while explaining it in the 70s. And if you want to do the exact same thing, that's the exact same thing that Green Book tries to do and does it worse to the point where Mahershala Ali is being taught how to eat fried chicken by Viggo Mortensen. That's what we're arguing here. Green Book beat Black Klansman in an egregious loss. And he wants to say, oh, the favorites, 3 wins or nominations, and blah, blah, blah. When you go head-to-head in that year, Black Klansman did better at the Oscars than the favorite in categories. It won more Oscars. than the favorite. It was more liked than the favorite. But the point that I'm trying to make is that in my year, BlacKkKlansman stands head and shoulders above the rest of it, which he keeps trying to argue with one movie. His argument is that The Social Network is a great movie, but it is not the only movie that could have beat The King's Speech in that year, and The King's Speech is not a bad movie to lose to. He keeps arguing, Inception and Toy Story 3 and Winter's Bone are all as good movies. That's wrong.
Time. All right. My baby is awake, so God bless the queen, a.k.a. my wife. All right. I can hear her crying through the floor.
The baby or your wife?
Probably both. I think it's the baby, but you guys ready?
Yeah.
Kirk, you are kicking us off, my friend.
I'm tempted to give neither the point just because of all this Roma disrespect, which I will not stand for. They didn't steal that award from Spike Lee. They stole it from Alfonso Cuarón. But I didn't take. Rue could have scored some points if he brought that up more, but he didn't. But no, I kept that out of it. This was a tough one. I was trying to take notes at the beginning. It was getting so fast and furious, and so much minutia that I just stopped taking notes and just trying to listen. And it's hard because a lot of it was opinion based, and it's really hard when it's like, well, this movie was a little bit better than this movie, but this movie's a little bit better than this movie. So it's really hard to keep up with that and just form something. So for me, it came down to the closing arguments, and I went with Koho because I think the fact that the question was what should have won, and I think they were both arguing, winner versus rest of the class and winner versus their pick. And I think Koho threw some things at it closing there about just like the social aspects of both movies, the fact that BlacKkKlansman won more Oscars and it was kind of geared up towards, it looked like it might have been winning. So I think that's, again, I had to latch onto something because there was so much getting thrown around, and in the closed arguments, that's what won me over.
Okay, I'll go next. This was still very good. I want to be clear about that. I thought this was a good fight. I think I'm a little, not that Kirk was negative on it, but I feel like I thought that I felt it was a very good fight. That being said, last time I was like 51-49. I'm a little more 70-30 on this one. I feel really strongly about Rue actually on this one. I thought that Rue did a really good job of convincing me on his whole thing of like the rest of the movies against King's Speech and Social Network are really good. Great all-time movies. But they're very good at certain things, whereas Social Network does all of those things, and then was able to take BlacKkKlansman and say, here are the things in BlacKkKlansman that aren't good that the Social Network does do good. Whether I agree with them or not, I love John David Washington. I feel like Rue probably does too, and that he's just fucking with us. So I think Koho had a good pick, and I think that Rue also other thing that I liked that he did was he didn't shy away from the fact that BlacKkKlansman's a better movie than Green Book. It probably is. And he didn't shy away from that, but he also said there are people who like that movie a lot. Like, it's not out of the question that it could have won versus all of the all-timers like Toy Story 3 and Inception and Social Network specifically that absolutely should have won over King's Speech. So I thought Rue did a really, really strong job on this. I agree with Kirk. It was opinion based, a lot of it, but I thought Rue was just able to convince me, maybe in his fake opinions, that he was lying about. I'm not sure, but let's go to Brian.
And before you go to Brian, I did not mean to insinuate it was argued poorly or debated poorly.
Oh, no. It was
difficult to judge the way it was.
You did not. That's not what I was trying to say.
I'm still up in the air on John David. I tend positive, but man, he's not letting me help him out.
He's no Denzel.
Tough act to follow.
Okay, Brian, go ahead.
What is debate if not opinions? That's what this is all about.
That's fair.
Making people agree with you. Yeah, no, this was a really good debate. I thought both opponents did exactly what they should do in a question like this, which is to not only support the movie, but to put it in the context of the year it came out and its competition and the other nominees and who won. And in this kind of question, that's what you got to do. You got to see how does it fit into that context. I think both of them did a great job of that. But for me, I thought that Rue did a better job in terms of pitching a stronger case for why The Social Network, everything about it that made that one more worthy to win. How basically everything came together from the acting and directing and editing and everything to make basically a perfect film. He just made a stronger case for me, which helped me tip the scales.
All right, Kirk is the odd man out tonight. No, I'm just kidding.
Best place to be. No one can be mad at me.
You voted for Koho. Look at that.
Exactly. Knock you over the rest of the night and we're fine.
Let's move on to the next question, which was drafted by Rue in the category of actors and actresses. Your question is, which 1990s non-fandom Martin Lawrence film is the most fun to watch? Opinions. Rue, you get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking, sir.
For 5+ years, Martin Lawrence had by far the most fun television show ever due to his epic jokes, shit-talking, physical comedy, great disguise, and great use of his own voice. And Blue Streak is the only 90s movie that carries all that from minute 1 to 91, starting with him telling jokes and talking shit to his crew in the opening heist until one member shifts on them and throws another member off the roof, and a chase ensues across buildings and zip lines until Martin hides a diamond in a building. And then when we go on to when he gets out and he goes back to that building, and he has a hilarious conniption finding out that that building became a police station. So then we get to see him do his great caricature disguises to get into it, and then one hilarious comedy of errors after another for him falling forward into higher and higher positions into the police ranks with great improv, great jokes, great comedic set pieces. And I haven't even gotten into the car chases, foot chases, shootouts, fist fights, roasting sessions, hilarious interrogation scenes, magnets picking up armored trucks, and the best part of the movie in between all those set pieces, the amazing relationships and amusing relationships with Luke Wilson and Dave Chappelle.
Time. I want to see this movie now. Caleb, 1 minute to open when you start talking.
You know what I think of when I think of having a fun time? House Party. I think that movie on the whole is just the definition of let me turn this on, turn my brain off, laugh, get the full experience. Martin Lawrence is so good in this. Get the entire vibe of what the movie suggests. You're literally in a house party, hanging out with people in the best way, getting to watch people interact, and also having like Martin, like Rue wants to pitch Martin Lawrence's whole skill set. I don't think he has that skill set, but I think that he does a pretty great job of making me laugh at House Party. So if you're gonna pick which Martin Lawrence movie I want to watch House Party. I think that through and through, the plot, the elements of the actors, the relationships, the dynamics, and all the way through it, through the rap battles, and through the liar revealed, and through the relationship with the brothers, all of it. I feel like House Party through and through is a more fun watch to have, especially if I can just turn my brain off.
Okay, but what if I've seen the remake?
No, I haven't seen the remake.
Okay. All right. 5 minute freeform. One of you starts talking.
And go ahead, Rick.
I wanted to watch House Party as well, and I did because I thought that was the choice. Until I sat through that first hour of them talking in the cafeteria and being bored, and then talking in his house with Robin Harris, who's muted as hell, and then the stereotypical cops pulling over the black man thing, and then another conversation about what we're gonna wear at the girl's house, and then another weird, boring conversation of what we're gonna do in terms of the DJ. And I waited a whole ass hour to finally get to the fun of the party while having to listen to full force the three bullies that are absolutely poorly aged, uses the F word and pussy without being funny, and has to listen to their voice like this because I'm going to kick your fucking ass. It's not fun for that first hour. It's annoying and boring, and you're like, wait a second, when are we getting to the party?
I think that first hour is necessary, though, to make me care about the various characters and their relationships going into the party. And when all the action in the movie comes together, I think you need that opening. You need to see his relationship with the police. And yeah, okay, sure, poorly aged, but whatever. It's 1990. I'll forgive it. But I think that entire opening is defining to why I need to like the guy. Why is the house party so important to him? Is that first hour. I need to see it and need to experience what his life is like so that when we're in the party, I'm actually invested in what actually is happening at the party. Again, the issue I have with Blue Streak is that you're pitching a movie that really doesn't exist. This is not what Blue Streak is at all. Blue Streak as a movie is like a bad Heat ripoff. It's a bad, let's put like an SNL parody on the heist of Heat and also try and inject what he did in Bad Boys, but he's not playing off of a Will Smith, he's playing off of Dave Chappelle, which is significantly less strong of a dynamic in the sense of people he gets to play off of in terms of talent. So I think that Blue Streak, on the whole, not House Party in any way.
I'm just gonna go to this now. You got Dave Chappelle at his peak, and the ability to look at two comedic, just best stand-up comedians of all time go toe-to-toe with punchlines, improv, and physical comedy, and then get the opposite amount of fun where he's going up against Luke Wilson, the perfect mix of naivety and endearing to pull off the lower-ranked white boy trying to be cool is absolutely fun from front to back. You said it yourself. I don't think you got to turn your brain off, but you like turning your brain off to have fun. So if you don't like it, you can turn your brain off and have fun and all the jokes that everybody loves about Martin Lawrence. House Party. I never said the movie's not good. I never said the movie doesn't have character. But that first hour, not including the bullshit that is full force, is not fun. It's there. You're watching. Sure, you're interested, but you're not having fun. You're like, okay, where's this fun party that we're having? There's no fun to be had in that first hour, and there's times where you're pissed off. The Heat knockoff. It needs to be Heat knockoff for Blue Streak. It is a comedy with Martin Lawrence at full force, and he is. And with Dave Chappelle, the whole scene where they fake them being drug dealers, and he asked Dave Chappelle, do the stomach and mouth thing when you rip the eyes out, and Dave Chappelle goes, kill, with his amazing voice. It's exactly the kind of comedy and fun and action you get from front to back.
If I want Dave Chappelle comedy, I'll watch a special. He's not funny when he has to act in a movie. He's actually really bad in Blue Streak. And Martin Lawrence is not doing the full, you're like, oh, he's at the full force of his powers. He's at like 25% because he's burnt out from the last 3 movies he did. He's basically trying, how do I do Bad Boys, but have to be both Will Smith and Martin Lawrence? And he can't balance it. As an actor, he just can't. He doesn't have that ability. So the movie you're pitching is really cool if it existed. The movie you're pitching is not fun. This dynamic of Luke Wilson's an idiot. And even if he's supposed to be, that's not fun for me to watch because Luke Wilson's not a fun actor to watch. When it comes to mine, you're like, oh, nothing happens in the first hour. That's fun. Literally, when they jump the fence and see Roughhouse having sex, I think that's pretty fucking funny. I think there's a lot of shit that's really fucking funny in that first hour. So if you want to throw out, oh, there's not fun to watch in the first hour, that's just not right. The cafeteria is fun, to be fair. Them picking up the stuff for the party is fun because I know that it's going to set up even more fun stuff for me. It's the buildup in anticipation to when I get to go to the party and have an absolute fucking blast. Whereas with yours, your whole thing, it's not fun to me if I know I can go watch a better version of this movie across the board. I know that I'm watching a garbage parody of things that I can go watch that are more fun to actually watch. So if I'm going to watch Martin Lawrence be Martin Lawrence, I'm going to go watch something where I can't watch a better version of it and go watch him do what I want Martin Lawrence to do, which is make me laugh with a bunch of people at a house party.
You talked about Dave Chappelle not acting. He's not acting that movie. He's playing himself, being the big outrageous role, with Martin Lawrence being the outrageous role. You want to talk about jokes? When the jokes in Blue Streak are absolutely hilarious.
Okay, Koho, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
He just said it. Dave Chappelle plays himself in everything. So once again, he's not funny when he plays himself. He's funny when he does a stand-up set. And he's not doing a stand-up set in Blue Streak. He's trying to play off of people, which he cannot do. And he's a pretty major part of this movie is that dynamic of him and Martin Lawrence. The fact that they don't even have a real dynamic is a bummer because I think both of them are funny and neither of them get to be really funny. Martin Lawrence is like, I'm the action hero lead of this movie. I'm the Will Smith in the 90s, but I have to bring Martin Lawrence humor to it. And it just doesn't work. That's not the lead of the movie that I want to watch. Everything Rue pitches about this movie is not really how it goes because Luke Wilson is just a really obnoxious, annoying, bad cop, if we're being real. And he wants to pitch, house party. Nope, the fun stuff in the first hour. I'm giving you plenty of examples of why the stuff you're watching in the first hour is fun. And while it's not as fun as the second hour when you're at a house party, obviously, it's necessary and still fun as building the anticipation of when we get to the stuff I want to watch, which is a house party.
Time. Okay. We're going to move over to Rue. Rue, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
The one scene he mentioned where Full Force is chasing Kid is after Full Force got kicked out of the party in the second hour. The cafeteria being fun is when we're introduced to Full Force. And I have to hear them talk like this and call people pussies and use the F word and everything. And you're sitting there like, nah, man, nah. And didn't even mention the whole scene of watching dresses or the whole scene of Martin Lawrence sitting on his porch in that first hour. Half a movie that's not fun is not fun at all compared to the dancing, the caricatures, the jokes, the Dave Chappelle being his stand-up Dave Chappelle. You said Dave Chappelle, him being himself, is not funny, but you're watching his stand-up where he is himself and you have a blast. I'm sorry. And I didn't even have to go into the fact that there are plenty of car chases, hilarious foot chases. There are, again, a magnet picking up a armored truck in the middle of a shootout while still cracking jokes with Luke Wilson and Dave Chappelle. In all the things from moment 1 to moment 91, there isn't a point where Martin Lawrence isn't on 10 and at his best. Dave Chappelle isn't there, and all the people around him in action is amazingly fun.
Amazingly fun. Rue, please strike it from the record. Okay. So I don't know if it aired before or after this. It airs after this, but Jacoby and Nazario played recently, and you'll see the match next week. I had to cut Jacoby off like 4 different times where he just kept talking. And I was like, Jacoby, strike it from the record.
Checks out.
It was so funny. All right. I believe Brian is starting first. He looks ready. Kirk, where are you at?
I'm almost there.
Okay. I will say I have not seen either of these films, but I was really hoping that Blue Streak was 91 minutes because that line was really good. Good shit. It's 93 minutes though, unfortunately.
It's something around there, and I didn't want to say
it was a really good line. So I was like, ooh, I hope he's on it. Oh. All right. Brian, kick us off.
They're also referred to the second hour house party, which is only an hour and 40 minutes. So, it all evens out. It balances. Yeah, I won't keep suspense. I voted Rue on this one. I think that he got a real good hit in early on when he talked about how that that first hour is kind of slow and not nearly as funny, and how basically half a movie or 2/3 of a movie is not being funny. It's not going to be fun. If you want to sit down and watch a fun movie, you want something that's fun beginning to end. Koho did come back trying to talk about how use that first hour to set up the relationships and to kind of learn about people so that you're invested in them in the second half. But to me, investment has nothing to do with the fun of a movie. If that's for a different question, it would make sense, but not for the fun. He did come back later on towards the end of the argument. He finally tried to come back, to combat that with some of the funny things that were in that first hour. But I thought it was a little bit too little, too late. I did want to give him Koho points for because everybody who knows me, for saying that he didn't care if it aged too well. It's 1990s, wanted to forgive it. So I wanted to give him a point for that, but I can't.
All right, Kirk, you're up next.
This started out really interesting because Rue came on real strong with his opening, saying my movie has this and this and this and this and this, and it's fun because of that. And then Koho came on and said, hey, my movie's fun just because you could turn your brain off and sit down and watch it. There's a lot of fun stuff happening. So there's two very different types of fun being argued, which I thought was interesting. But then, and I'm going to give it away, I went with Rue. And because Rue did something really interesting, he not only argued why his movie was fun, he argued specifically why. Koho argued more why Blue Streak wasn't very good. Rue did a better job arguing why House Party wasn't fun. And what he did is he pointed out all the boring parts, and he made Koho defend House Party as, well, you have to get invested and you have to have all this stuff to set up. And all those things went against the idea of turning your brain off. Like I'm listening, I'm like, well, my brain would be very much on at this point. So at that point, Rue really had it for me. And Koho had a couple good punches at the end where he's talking about, well, it's just a parody, and it's not fun to watch a parody when I can watch a better movie. And he almost swung me on that. But at that point, I think Rue had just really locked in why his movie was fun and specifically why Koho's wasn't.
Okay, my vote doesn't count. Yeah, so went with Rue. And let me tell you, I think, and they can correct me if I'm wrong afterwards. If I was in Koho's shoes and I was looking at this question and I knew I hadn't seen any of the movies that were available to choose, you do the best you can and you roll with it and you try to do what you can. But I think I agree with both of my co-judges, but also Kirk specifically talking about the way that Rue was able to point out that House Party wasn't fun. I thought was a really big point. Koho is really good, though, at making me believe he's seen movies that he has never seen. I could be wrong on that. He's free to correct me.
Oh, no, I haven't seen a second of either movie.
Yeah, but he's really good at taking context from Rue being like, the cafeteria, and then Koho being like, the cafeteria is fucking fantastic. He's really good at doing that. So I commend his spirit. But when he started fluttering at like 35 seconds in his opening, I had a feeling where this was going. And I thought this was one of those situations where Rue totally crushed it. And I really want to see this movie now. Even though it only has like a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. Fucking sounds like a blast. So
It's hilarious.
I saw them both, but it's been decades ago.
All right, so Rue is up 2-1, which means Koho needs to hit this in order to send it to the bonus round. The question is in the category of epic adventures. Your question is, which Pirates of the Caribbean action scene is the most exciting? Koho, you get to kick it off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
There's only one answer to this question. The most exciting moment is the one that's been set up since the beginning of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise as a whole, and that's holy shit. And that is the Maelstrom fight in Outworld's End. When you come through this entire journey of getting Jack Sparrow back, of putting all these characters across the board, and having them come face to face with Davy Jones in the fight for the soul of the Pirates of the Caribbean. It is the greatest thing you've ever seen. You have Davy Jones and Jack Sparrow fighting on top of a mast as the ships are interlocked going down a whirlpool. You have Barbossa, Will, and Elizabeth fighting it out against a bunch of different Dutchman people and getting married in the middle of it. You have Pinto and Rigetti getting their moment to shine as well, swinging across the ships and taking out and getting the heart and bringing it back over for Jack. You have Jack the monkey running around in the middle of this as an undead monkey. And while you think this is chaotic, Gore Verbinski does the best job any director has ever done of establishing millions and millions of extras fighting on two ships. And at the end of the day, nothing is more exciting than watching Jack Sparrow and Davy Jones fight on top of a fucking ship.
I love you, but okay. The way
Jackson who? Anyway.
No, I agreed with most of what you said. It was just the way you said Gore Verbinski is the best director ever. I was like, Gore Verbinski. Calm down. Let's go over to Rue. Rue, you have 1 minute to open when you start talking.
The most exciting scene is the one that earns the use of the extended version of that Hans Zimmer and Klaus Badelt exciting-ass Pirates theme. It's the chase for Davy Jones' heart and key between Jack, Norrington, and Will, interspersed with Mattel and Rigetti versus Elizabeth and Davy Jones' crew on Isla Crucis. Not only do we get three men who loathe each other sword fighting 1v1v1, then 1v2, switching up fights as they push, pull, and chase down the beach, but the addition of chasing the key adds an element of physics that ups every second and setting from sword sings as they chase each other upstairs, they jump down and fly up bell ropes, the key changing hands as they quip each other, Jack trying to talk his way out of the fight by reminding Norrington that Will took everything from him, then jumping off the roof, moving the fight over to a detached water wheel with the two men fighting on top of the wheel, trying to stay balanced while Jack and the key is being left at the whim of centrifugal force, and to intersperse that with Pintel and Rigetti being hilarious, being chased with the chest by Elizabeth, who then have to turn and team up, tossing swords at each other as they're fighting Davy Jones's crew. It's just an escalating cacophony of swords, monsters to
That was fantastic. Good shit, Rue. Guys, 5-minute freeform. One of you starts talking.
Your scene would be exciting if everyone got to be involved in it, and that's why it is ultimately a disappointment. Jack gets about 2 swings of a sword, 1 joke, falls into a grave, and then is sidelined in a wheel for the rest of the fight until the very end when he gets back on the boat with a jar of dirt. And then Elizabeth and Pintle and Rigetti get their one moment where Elizabeth pouts in the grass and then gets up and chases them into the woods, and they get to do the callback, and then they get to clash swords once, and then they're out of the fight running away. So ultimately this moment is just a Will Norrington fight, which ultimately is a fight I don't really give 2 shits about at the time we're at the end of a second movie. With the Maelstrom, we've been building up to Davy Jones and Jack fighting the entire 2-movie span, and this is the first time they get to clash swords. This is the first time we get to see the 2 lead villain and hero get to fight, and it is the centerpiece of an entire action set piece where they are in the middle of a whirlpool in the ocean, locked into death, with all these pirates jumping back and forth on ships and fighting to literally define if the pirates are going to survive in the Caribbean or not.
You seem to forgot about the fact that Pintel, Rigetti, and Elizabeth go sword, and toss it in between each other while they're being chased. All of the excitement about Jack really isn't his fighting. It's everything he does around it. That's why running on side the wheel and in the wheel and jumping down and talking and then also fighting on top of that makes that exciting for him. You talk about setup. They set up 2 hours and about 5 minutes of that long-ass movie for this huge Navy fight between a bunch of ships, and what we get is 2 ships going in a circle. And we don't even get that, because in your 20 minutes, everything you mentioned is about 5 of those minutes. Because you know we got to get a lot of Jack talking to himself in the cell, and then Mulroy and Murtaugh doing their little joke thing that's right after they go in the Maelstrom, which you set up the timeline, and then them 2 having their comedic moment, and then a close-up of Jack and Davy Jones talking about him getting out, and then another close-up after they get on top of Jack getting the key, and then another close-up of them kissing, and then another close-up of will you marry me, and then another close-up of drop the masses and do this shit thing and do that shit thing, and then close-up after close-up. The last 2 minutes of your whole 20 minutes is Will dying, Jack going like this, Elizabeth staring at him, and then Davy Jones stabbing him. There is no excitement because your excitement is all in the background.
If you're going to conveniently say that, oh, I forgot about Pinto, Rigetti, and Elizabeth, and then throw out the entire wide-angle shots of the ships locked, going down, people swinging across, and watching Pinto and Rigetti switch ships, and watching Angus Barrett and Giles Niles swing back, that's literally his name, swing back across the ships and land on and change sides midway through the fight so that they can survive because the pirates start winning, then you're insane. Because yes, there are close-ups to give people emotion, but literally Jack and Davy Jones have a wide-angle shot of them crossing swords. They get close. Jones says, no, you don't, with the key. Let's Jack do cut off his tentacle and dives off the ship. There is excitement from across the entire set piece. So while mine has character moments in the middle of the set piece, because you need that, because this is the end of the entire saga and paying off everyone's different character beats, with Will and Elizabeth finally getting married, something they wanted to do at the beginning of your movie, and Jack getting out of his debt with Jones, and Jones finally dying, and Will fulfilling his prophecy, and all of it happening, then you're crazy for saying, oh, all of that is boring background stuff, when all you get is people saying sword.
It would work in your scene if your scene was 7 minutes. Your scene is 20 minutes. So instead of being excited by one thing after the next of what you set up, I am sitting there waiting for 2 minutes for the next thing, then another 2 minutes for the next thing, and then another 2 minutes for the next thing. It's not exciting. It's me sitting and waiting. While my 5 to 7 minute scene is one big thing being set up after the next scene. Beach chase, house chase, running up and down, water wheel, then cut over to Patel and Rigetti, running and hitting the chest. Then you see Davy Jones's crew come up off the water, reminding you of the first film when they're in the water, making that exciting. Again and again and again, it builds for the entire 7 minutes. I'm sitting there waiting for something to happen in more than half of your 20-minute action scene.
You literally just decided where yours begins. Your set piece is 20 minutes.
You Koho, you talked for like a minute and a half. You got to let
He's
Ruben
done with his
go.
point.
Okay, all right.
So as I was mentioning, there is not 1 second in my 7 minutes where you're waiting for something to happen and not excited, because all the stops are everything you love about Jack when he gets to excitingly talk Norrington out of fighting him, or when he falls away from them and falls into the grave, or is running alongside the wheel as the wheel goes in the background of Pintel and Rigetti. There's not one point in that 7 minutes where you're not excited, where I'm waiting again and again and again in your scene.
Okay, the point that I'm trying to make is that you literally just said that the best parts of the fight are when Jack's not interacting with anyone and he's doing his own thing. But then criticize mine for having moments where he's sitting in the cell talking to himself and having character moments. So which is it? Is he fun when he's fighting, which happens in mine, or is he not fun when he's not fighting, which also happens in mine? You can't have it both ways.
You said Jack is not in it. I proved that Jack is in it in the exciting ways he's in, and he's a smaller. When he's in it, he is very exciting. The entirety of it is the three of them for the majority of it, going back and forth with Will and Norrington fighting the most, while Jack is doing his little thing, fighting and then getting away in between it, then going to Pintel and Rigetti, where yours again is 20 minutes, where I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yours is also 20 minutes, by the way, from the point where you establish it, where they come out of the water. There's a full 5 minutes of them talking at the chest from the moment they come out of the water. It's set up. When they come out of the water, they're talking at the chest. Then they clash swords after talking. They go into the woods. They get on the thing. Jack is sidelined as soon as he says his thing, and then it's stuck in the wheel. So, yes, he is in the scene, but he's not in the fight. Elizabeth and Pintel and Rigetti are also not in the fight. All they get to say is sword and throw swords back and forth and block a couple shots. Whereas in mine, Elizabeth is literally the Pirate King fighting, crossing swords with Will to help each other take out other people, while Barbosa is taking out 2 more people up top. What I'm saying is everything that you're excited about, which the core reason why you think yours is exciting is because a lot of different characters get to fight together and against each other in one moment. Mine is the entire cast gang to come together for the first time in the whole movies.
Okay. We are going to go to Rue first on this one. Rue, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Koho is not right in what I'm saying. My scene is exciting. My scene is exciting because from and I'm not going to fact check this, from minute 1 to minute 7, 5, or whatever it is, it's consistent chasing, fighting, the whole wheel thing. How fun was it to see him in the wheel, and when he got to the bottom, got popped up? It goes from one scene to the next. Chase, fight, swords, jumping, going up, going down, and the key and the physics and centrifugal force of all of that on top of all the fighting makes that scene exciting from second 1 to second till it ends. The problem with your scene is that it is fucking long, and we get Calypso, your whirlpool, we get this Navy fight, 2 things spinning back and forth. And that would have been exciting if we got to see it, but we don't, because we have all the character moments. We have all the connections of having to talk to each other, because it's nothing but close-ups. So yes, you get all those things, but it's 30 seconds, 2 minutes of 40 seconds, 3 minutes of what are we doing here?
Okay, we're going to go over to Koho. Koho, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Rue loves the word centrifugal force, and he can't say, oh, I love the spinning wheel and them going after the key, when that's literally like my entire thing is the entire ship's going around in a circle while people are jumping back and forth between ships. Centrifugal force, mine, have it. You should like my scene. So when it comes down to my entire moments, it's not just about the excitement of the set piece itself with the ships and the people fighting, because all of that's happening throughout the entire set piece, whether Rue wants to admit it or not. But the excitement also comes in those moments where Jack is face-to-face with Davy Jones, when Will and Elizabeth get to be face-to-face and get married, and Barbosa gets to marry them. It's all these moments where we are excited to finally see the payoffs of the different arcs that these characters have had over multiple films. This is the final moment. This is the Rohan of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. This is the end of the entire saga. And it's so exciting to watch it finally come into a final flurry, whereas Ruse has people spread out and dispersed, and only it's a 2-person fight on a wheel for about 12 minutes.
Okay. We're going to bring in the judges. Fuck.
Good shit, Koho. That was fun.
I have to, I'm playing in a thing where I have to watch these movies. And I'm semi-excited to rewatch them. It's been a while. So.
I will watch all of them.
Did you say you'll watch all of them for me? Is that what you said?
I'll watch all of them. No, I'll watch them with you. I will do a full live.
You could have a live Koho commentary.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I can do that. But if you want to help me study, I'm more than happy.
Brian and I should have a Pirates of the Caribbean talk show. The amount of times we use this category.
I have a collection of jacks right up here.
All right. This is so what I wrote on my board is so dumb. It's a joke name. I'm going first. Interesting, as I usually say when I go first and it's close. Both painted these scenes in very interesting ways to me. And I liked the way that both players, I don't want to use the word pivot because I feel like pivot's the wrong way, but I think that they took the criticisms from their opponent and found ways to clash against it. For the instance, I think Rue was able to Rue against Koho did the things about the close-ups and the waiting and everything, and Koho, I thought, used that and kind of explained like, well, those moments are exciting because of XYZ. Rue was able to take like Jack doesn't do anything and was able to be like, no, him not doing anything is actually kind of exciting in those moments. So I thought that both players did a good job. This one was very close for me. I did go with Kaleb and I wrote oh ho oh because it kind of sounded piratish. It sounded mildly piratish. And look, it's an acronym for Koho. And the thing that kind of got me in the end was I was thinking back upon the whole fight, and despite Rue's very strong point about there's 2 minutes of waiting here and then something exciting, 2 minutes of waiting here and then something exciting, it still sounded like a lot of excitement to me. And the things that Koho was describing sounded fucking exciting. And I thought Koho did do a good job of taking down the Rue's points or Rue's scene by just being like, yeah, it's a fine scene, it's cool, but like this is the culmination of everything, and there's so much happening. And I liked that he pointed out it sounds chaotic, even though I laughed at him when I brought in, he was like, it sounds chaotic, but under the direction of Verbinski, it actually works pretty seamlessly and is very exciting. So I went with Koho. It sounds like I was negative Rue on that one. I really wasn't. For a long part of that fight, I was thinking Rue. Kaleb just won me by the end. Brian, where are you going and why?
This is at least the third, maybe fourth time that I've either been in or listened to a Pirates fight where these were the two picks. These two scenes get picked every single time.
Interesting happens.
And now they're different. One of them was like just best scene in Pirates. One of them was maybe best fight scene. And now we have most exciting. Now, don't remember what all of them were exactly, but they were all a little bit different questions. But these are the two scenes that always seem to get picked, and for a good reason. They're both great scenes, and these two did a great job pitching them both. When it came down to trying to figure out which one to give the point to, I guess I had to look at the question, and it's, in this case, it's most exciting. And I think that Koho did a better job for me, just because, Rue picked a scene, and he pitched as, like, how fun is it when this happens? How fun is it when this happens? And yes, that's fun. But in terms of excitement, I thought that Koho did a better job in the last one about talking about how it is the scale of it and the culmination of so many different things going on through all three movies, and it all comes together. And yes, it could be chaotic, but like Tim said, and Koho argued that Verbinski did a great job of handling that, and so the viewer kind of understood the geography, knew what was going on, even behind the scenes, not in the foreground, and everything came together in the end, and it just created a very exciting scene. Also, I just want to point out, Rue, just to keep your streak going, Tim voted for your 50% of the time so far tonight. I voted for your 50% of the time tonight. Let's see where Kirk goes.
Oh my God.
Kirk, I was going to point out something, but I'm going to wait now. Kirk, your vote doesn't count. What would you say?
I also went with Koho.
Okay.
50%.
Yeah.
50% every fucking time.
And again, this was another really good fight, and I think they both did a really good job and they both picked two good scenes. Personally, I think Rue picked the better scene from definitely the better movie.
I would agree.
That would have been my personal pick right off the bat.
I think Koho would agree with you.
But I think, I think that I think Koho did just such a good job of selling every moment, and it came down to the end where Rue was winning me over when he was really hitting hard. That you have all these slow down moves, all these start and stop, and Koho in his closing hit those are just as exciting because it's not action and stuff in your face. It's exciting for the story and the characters and the movie and the trilogy. So that's what it's. Sometimes it's like if they say this, they get the point. And Koho said what he needed to say to get the point to be that closing.
All right. What I was going to point out, which is going to upset two people on this call, but I'm prepared to make the statement, is there might be only one good Pirates movie, like the first one. Like everyone loves Dead Man's Chest. Like there's really good scenes in it, but it's like a 3-star movie for me.
When I came to the community,
But,
I liked Dead Man's Chest, so I get it.
That being said, it's been like 5 years since I've seen it. At World's End is an abysmal film. I will just say that. But
for Rue, you picked my favorite action set piece in a movie of all time. That was the hardest fight of my life.
I'm going to rewatch those, and I will message this group and let you know what I thought of Dead Man. So we are going to the bonus round.
Yay!
I'm actually yay.
Here's how this is going to work. I've decided that I'm in charge and I can do whatever I want. Normally, I would randomize between Fandom and Mayzone, but tonight I decided, fuck it, we're going to mash them up. So I randomized a category from one of them and then kind of applied it to the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the category and then I'm going to say the question. When I have repeated the question for a second time, you will then get to answer. Whoever answers the question first will be going first. You each get 45 seconds, followed by 30 seconds. Any questions from the players? Okay. So the category we're going with is a director's question, but it's going to be fandom based. So the category is directors, but it's fandom based. And your question is simply, what is the best directed fandom film that was not brought up tonight? So you can't pick Avengers Infinity War, Black Panther, or anything else that we talked about tonight in the pirate stuff. You can't bring up those. So again, what is the best directed fandom film that was not brought up tonight?
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I'm not gonna look through anymore. I found one. Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse.
Okay. So I am going to stay on screen for this. Koho answered first, so he will be going first. We have our picks. What is the best directed fandom film? Koho has chosen The Dark Knight. Rue has picked Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Koho, you have 45 seconds when you start talking, and I'm staying on screen to give you your 10-second warning.
What Christopher Nolan's able to do in The Dark Knight is unprecedented. The way he builds action set pieces and places them across this film at perfect points to make you feel the absolute pressure of the chaos that the city's under, the way it feels like the entire city is on a powder keg and about to explode from the Joker, the way the Joker feels like an unstoppable force of nature is unbelievable. The way that Nolan constructs it, the also way that he's able to dissolve Bruce Wayne's psyche in this film and get into why Batman is necessary and what kind of person Batman needs to be at a time when he doesn't want to really do it anymore. While he wants to be with Rachel and the relationship he has with Rachel, but also why Harvey Dent is such an important figure. There's so many different characters and different thematic through lines that need to be juggled and balanced across this film. And The Dark Knight, through Nolan's direction, does it absolutely masterfully all the way to the end when a silent guardian and watchful protector at Dark Knight shows on screen.
Time. All right, Rue, 45 seconds.
You often forget that a director basically controls everything in a movie, and it's even harder to do that in an animated film where you also have to look at all the different aspects, not only of the story, but of the animation. And it's even harder when 3 people need to come together as directors and come together and make a multiverse story, make it feel like something so singular, so thematic, so palpable, that looks great, sounds great, acted great. Every single character on that screen, no matter where you are or what you're doing, you feel every aspect of Miles' journey of finding out his own Miles' journey and Gwen's journey and Peter B. Parker's journey and finding out who they are and who they want to be and where they are in the world. And to do that with so many different characters, with 3 different directors, and so many little points of all the animation you have to do and make it seamlessly feel like one cohesive movie is a feat like none other.
Time. Koho, 30 seconds.
It's much easier for 3 people despite one to do the feat of one person. Across the Spider-Verse does it better with 3 totally different people who improve on those storylines with different people, create a different world that looks much better visually. So at the end of the day, your 3 people are not even the best 3 people to do the job that you just said they were doing. Whereas with Nolan, he has made the definitive Batman film. No one has touched it. No one has beaten him in that arena through and through. The Dark Knight is still a masterpiece that many believe should have been nominated for one Best Picture in its given year. It is the definitive comic movie because of what Nolan's done. Yours has been done better by 3 other people.
Time. Rue, 30 seconds.
It's much easier to direct half of a movie across the Spider-Verse than it is to complete a whole movie with so many different characters and never miss one beat, not missing any characters when something else is off the screen. The problem with The Dark Knight is anytime the Joker is not on the screen, you're ready to go back with him. So all that talk about cohesiveness and wanting to be there and juggling so many characters, when Joker's not on the screen, I'm kind of waiting for him to come back. And you know what? He also ends in kind of a dud where you're like, wait, he's not done, and I still have 20 minutes left. That's the problem with Christopher Nolan's direction in The Dark Knight, because it's not the definitive one. You have other ones that are the case.
Great. Love it when people play well.
Híjole.
I'll just go fuck you.
Yeah, that was fucking tough. That was very tough.
I'm just a madman with bonus rounds this title picture. I don't think I even told Kirk about this.
Jacoby told me.
Who told you?
Jacoby.
Oh, Kirk had a bonus question in his match, and I used the same exact bonus question for Jacoby's match to see what would happen. It was very fun. And now I'm mashing up categories. I love it.
I'm just very happy I got to go to a speed round again. I love these things.
Yeah, they're fun.
Oh,
as much as I hate going to them,
I don't go to the speed round.
They're fun.
Yeah, it's a sign that I suck. Look at my record.
Oh. Fair.
Oh shit! You should have known coming into this match you were going to the speed round because you're playing me.
I didn't go to you with the speed round with you last time.
The first time you did it, you might be the last person I didn't go to the speed round with.
That's fair.
Except when Kirk beat me 3-0 afterwards.
I think I've been in the speed round in like 3 years.
This is one of the hardest ones I've ever done.
Yeah, I need like 2 more minutes from each person. I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. Like, I'm...
Do we want to give 2 more? I'll go again.
No. That's why in these situations, I'm like, I gotta stop questioning myself, and I just go for it. But I get it. Like, take all the time you need, guys.
I just ask that you two decide it so it doesn't get to me.
We should have done best Michael Caine performance and why is it Jaws the Revenge?
Because it bought his mother a house.
I was gonna say my favorite comment.
And he's actually kind of fun in it.
He's not terrible.
I could argue with that's part of the movie.
Yes, he is. 100%.
Okay, Kirk. Luckily, I guess you get to go first. I don't know.
This was an unfair question to these guys because, like, what is directing? And how do you distill that down into a 45-second argument?
Great
and they both threw a lot of stuff. To their credit, they both threw a lot of stuff at the wall to see what sticks. And in a 5-minute debate, all of that stuff could have been really good jumping off points to other things that talk about the direction. But in and of itself, a lot of it, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what did they say that has to do with direction? And again, I'm not saying they did a poor job of it. They talked about their movies and a lot of stuff that was encompassed in their movies, but there's just so much going on. I had to cling to something because, like I said, it was just rapid fire back and forth. These two are the best at that. Ultimately, I did go with Rue. And my reason being that I brought it down to the closings again, and I think because they were equal in up to the closing because they both had thrown out a lot of information.
Also evil.
But I think Rue, I think Koho lost a little steam in his closing where he was talking about Oscars and should have won this and that and it was movie of the year and all that, where that was really off the rails with as far as direction goes. But Rue came at it, and I know that's the most stereotypical generic argument against Dark Knight, but in the context of the argument, it made sense, and he came on and put a full scale attack there in the last couple of seconds. So that was, again, I think they both did a good job. It was very close. It was hard to decide, but that's what pushed Rue over the edge for me.
Yeah, I'm probably the evilest person here because I tend to take questions that would be great for 5-minute fights, and I put them here. Mwahaha. There are things I agree and disagree with on Kirk on this one. I agree that Rue went for the stereotypical Dark Knight complaints, but that works. It's a stereotypical complaint for a reason because it's true. That being said, I think Koho did a good job of I thought Koho's point was really strong, and I wasn't expecting it, of the 3 directors doing it better in the second film. And take Rue's basically whole opening argument to say these 3 directors making a cohesive story or whatever, XYZ, and Koho taking that and basically shutting it down by being like, well, the next movie had 3 completely different directors and they did it even better. I still went with Rue, though, and I thought that his fight back on that of being like, again, cheap shot, but it works. It's half a movie. These are both 5-star movies, in my opinion. I think both these movies are fucking great. But I thought the cheap shots from Rue paid off. The cheap shots against the Dark Knight and the cheap shot of saying across is half a movie, and the directors there couldn't even do the full vision. I think that's a bullshit point in the sense of we knew going into that movie it was a part 1 of a part 2. But that doesn't come up, unfortunately. It's not fair, but it's how I feel. And I think Rue played that really smart. He took his time jumping into the second 30 seconds, and I thought that was really smart. And it won him the point for me. So, Brian, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
I also went through. Just barely, though. Yeah, this is one like Kirk said, you just had to kind of find something to grasp onto, and it was hard. I just think Rue did a great job talking about how the directors had to all the different things they have to pull together and make a cohesive story. I didn't feel like the attacks on it being the second one being better done, where I didn't think that was didn't do much for me. But the Dark Knight, I mean, he made a strong point for Dark Knight. But I think that a lot of the things he made, especially in his opening, felt like they're more script related in terms of all the different characters and having to go everything with the story, which I know obviously he plays a part in as the director, but in terms of directing, like Kirk said, I had to find something to grasp onto, and I went through.
Okay, well, that means your winner is Rue Moses. We are going to start post-match interviews by talking to Kaleb. Kaleb, great job tonight, man. Like, you always bring it. I feel like we know you always bring it. Excuse me. And like I said in the Martin Lawrence question, you're so good at just debating, whether you know what you're talking about or not. It's a clear fact. Like, you, at this point, you've done so many matches and you've had so many fights at this point. We just kind of can expect greatness every time, even in a loss. I know how it feels to lose and feel like, you played absolutely great. I totally get it. So, what are your thoughts coming out of this one? I thought this was one of your better fights. Like, you had the passion there. Like, what are you thinking, man?
I feel really good, even in a loss. I feel like obviously every time you walk out of a fight, you're like, oh, there's points I feel like I won. There's points I feel like I lost. I feel like the Oscars one, it could have gone either way. I think Rue sniped my pick, and there's not a lot of this. I had to get creative, and that's just how it was with a lot of them. With a lot of the ones, like where he went first, he got my pick for Pirates. I had to get creative. 50% accuracy rate on getting creative. I'll take it. But I think Rue's a terrific fighter. I'm glad I was able to keep it close. I'm just glad I got to go to a speed round. If we could have an exhibition that's all speed round, I want in. If we do an all speed round exhibition, throw me in. Because genuinely, this is the only time I'll talk up myself. I think I'm the best speed round debater that Fanzone has ever seen. There's not one person that I think can beat me when it comes to a speed round, except Rue, who just did it tonight. But I feel like for my money, I am the best at it. So I would do a whole exhibition on it. But
I'm looking at the stats. You're definitely better than Tyler Birch, who's 0% in the speed round.
I just never did a go.
But you surprisingly, the stat, other than of course the fact that Rue just beat you, that stat actually holds a little bit of weight. There's one person who has a higher percentage than you in speed rounds, and the only reason they have that higher percentage is because they only have 3 speed rounds. That's Jack Pinchuk.
Give me that motherfucker now.
That would be an interesting exhibition match. Let me run it past Kirk and Brian before they promptly tell me to fuck off. But Koho, I thought you played fantastic tonight. Like I said, you always bring it. I love that you always bring it because it's kind of the juice the league needs. So I'm always happy to have you around here.
I'm happy to play. I do want to give one shout out before I get the cane.
The boot.
Is my coach that has been helping me for these is in the other room here. She's incredible. Hopefully she gets to get in next season because I think she could beat Cody. I think she is a phenomenal fighter. That is Maddie Bale. You want to come say hi? Nope, that's the finger. But she's the best. So if she gets in here, she's gonna be great. So she makes me better, and I'm excited to see that it paid off even in a loss. That I played better. So thank you, hon.
She's on the list. You did share with me that she wanted to play. She's on the list for next season. I look forward to it. You're not going to play her. Your record is very different than a 0 and 0.
I never want to face her because I will never get out of that doghouse ever. I have to live with the consequences of that outside of here.
Yeah, I feel that. Koho, congrats on the match. I thought you played fantastic. It was, like I said, really, really strong debate the whole way through. Congrats, man. Love seeing you here, but let's bring in the winner today, Rue. Rue, damn. You brought the heat, and it's funny because like I stand by what I said about Koho. I think one of the best to play it. He's just played so many matches now. His record is kind of like inflated a little bit. But you took every question, even in categories that aren't your strengths, and killed it. And absolutely killed it. I think there was one question you didn't get a vote on. Otherwise, you completely cleared it. And even that one, it was like teetering for a couple of us. So fantastic job in this win. How are you feeling, man?
So when I was saying I was getting mad about continuously going to the speed round and getting these split votes, most of the time I'm actually usually mad when I don't think it should have gone that way. Most of the time, 100% of the time, when I play black movies and lose those, and I'm like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? I'm really pissed. However, when it comes to Koho, and probably a reason I am at this 50% level of all the things, I'm always playing great debaters. Like that is usually who I have to face. And with a person like Koho, who if I would have lost, I legit would not have been like, I'd have been mad because I lost, but I wouldn't have been the same kind of mindset because just about every question, I'm going to say, except the Martin Lawrence one, but just about every question, I was like, this could go either way. Even the Marvel question, where I just happen to disagree with Brian, where I believe my argument does make it best villain, and he doesn't. So that's why that happened. But anyway, like I would have felt okay. I wouldn't have been pissed. Leaving out of here with a loss because Koho did amazing. Also hilarious. Is that I lost my last speed round to Joe trying to fight my truthful fight that Across the Spider-Verse is a half a movie film is bullshit. And I lost that one. So I just went, I'm going to flip it and say it is a half a movie. And maybe I'll win it.
That's funny. That's awesome.
So I feel good about it. I'm very, very happy. But shout to Koho. Again, he's like people like him are the reason, one, I have the record I have, but two, like I keep debating because I love debating. I came into this league talking shit about how this is my league. And I'm going to continue to do that. But I also always have to continue to play guys like him.
Yeah, Rue, I think that, and I mean, I've thought this from the beginning. I think that you're one of the best we got in the league. I think you are definitely a future champion of this league if you keep it up. I think you're just fantastic at it. Like, that being said, you know, you now have a positive record. You were 6-6. You're now 7-6. So you're entered into a further title picture where you're going to get to play another opponent. And I like this attitude of like, I just want to win in this. This is great. I feel strongly about it. And I think we talked about it last week. If you watched last week's match, you didn't, Rue, because it hasn't aired. It's November, obviously. But we talked about it where when you're a high tier player who is very good, you're going to be playing high tier players. We talked about that with Kirk and Holtzman playing. And I think that is what happens tonight with you and Koho, and you've jumped it. And now you're playing the loser, I should say. You are playing the loser of a contender match that happened earlier. So we totally know who you're playing, Rue. You're playing the winner of Robert Kastner, or the loser, I'm sorry, of Robert Kastner and Jack Pinchuk. We totally know who you're playing. So why don't you tell us about how you feel about the person you're playing?
I feel like I can beat them because I feel like I can beat anybody. So.
I love that answer. Rue, congrats on the win. I'm looking forward to seeing you next season in that match in the first title picture of the season. I look forward to it. Let's get final thoughts, starting with Mr. Kirk Kowalkowski. You are muted, though. I love you nonetheless.
No. Okay. 5 rounds, and I feel confident about one of my votes. And when I say confident, that means like I can go back and rewatch that and maybe like I was the first and last points. I've never teetered so much on who I was going to go with. And even the one that I'm confident it was a blowout. I just feel strongly about that argument. But it's they both fought so well in all those rounds that for these votes, I don't feel bad about or I do feel bad about taking them from the person that lost because they did enough to earn it. But no, I'm glad to see Rue win because no secret. I've always said this. I'm a big fan of Rue, and I want to see him have success. I'd like to see him go on in trivia or this, whatever he does. But I also I really wanted to see Koho win too because I think he deserves to get over that hump and be in that next echelon and start getting those contender matches. I think he's good enough to do it. And, even though it didn't happen here, I think he will get there, next season at this point, probably now. But I think he has what it takes. He proved it against somebody like Rue, taking him down to the wire and, come as close as he could to pulling it off. So as good a fight as I expected, and I think both players should be proud.
Yeah, I agree with Kirk. I think that you said it earlier in the match, and you more or less said it again now. It really sucks when you have two players who are great and you have to take the point away from someone. It's really hard. It's hardest in title matches. Well, that's not true. It's hard in title matches, but it's also kind of harder in these ones that send them to the next thing, to the next echelon, which is why we're aiming for every week next season, but to try to get people more matches. But fantastic stuff. Brian, final thoughts from you.
No, I agree with everything Kirk said. There was so many of those ones where I just kind of latched onto something to make a decision, because there's only one or two of them that I thought were, decided in my mind. This is my favorite kind of match, and it's kind of what we expected, where you have each of them has one clean sweep, each of them has one split decision, goes to a speed round. Which, by the way, if you do that speed round thing, don't call me. I don't want any part of that. I'll judge it. I don't want to be in it. That's for damn sure.
That's fine.
But yeah, let Koho do it. He'll do great. He does do great in speed rounds. Just on this one, has happened to go for Rue on that question. Yeah, but it was great. I think Rue's a great debater, especially. He was actually the person I was supposed to debate before I ended up backing out for a while and taking some time off before I came back. Because I had so much trivia and other stuff going on at the time. But so I mean, I figure I'll probably face him sometime in the future. If I'm not still champion, because we totally know if I still am right now.
Yeah, of course.
If I'm not, then maybe I'll meet him on his way up to try and get to the championship. I don't know, but at some point I'll debate him. I'd love to debate Koho at some point too. That'd be fun.
That would be wild. Okay. Fantastic job. We've been on call long enough. I'm sure we're only going to talk for 7 more seconds after this. But guys, congrats on a fantastic match. Thank you to Koho. Thank you to Rue. Thank you to Brian and Kirk. But also thank you to Mark Menchaca and Cody Newberry behind the scenes for helping out with Fanzone Debate. I have been Tim. We will see you guys next time with another great match. Until then, have a great night. Bye-bye.
There we go. Thank you very much. Please come again. We have a lot more groceries.